I could breathe new life into something old.
Kind of like rebooting an old movie or TV show.
If you need any further proof that Urkel was bigger than the show that spawned him, then look no further than Urkel Saves Santa, the movie. Or as it's known in some places, Did I Do That to the Holidays? A Steve Urkel story. Now, notice Family Matters nowhere in the title there. And that's because Family Matters, and the family that mattered in Family Matters, are nowhere to be seen. This is another Steve Urkel endeavor sans Carl, Harriet, and even Laura. In this movie, the town looks completely different. None of the characters on the show ever appear in the movie, nor are any of the characters in the movie any characters that have been previously mentioned in the actual show. But despite this, there are still a few subtle and not so subtle references throughout the runtime. The movie opens with a similar sounding instrumental and a title sequence in a very familiar font. But outside of these winks and nods to the audience, there is no real reference to Family Matters. There's nothing to explain a connection because it's very clear that there is none, outside of Urkel himself. With the exception of some of Steve's inventions, including but not limited to the Urkelbot, which seems to be a very popular inclusion to the Urkel mythos outside of Family Matters media. And look, I know I'm overthinking it a little bit, but I can't help but feel that Steve Urkel and Carl Winslow were kind of a package deal. They were an iconic comedy duo. Urkel's antics were made that much greater with Carl's outbursts in reaction to his absurd nature. Though this isn't the first time the character's been featured on his own. That doesn't change that it still feels a little bit wrong seeing him without. Every time I watch Urkel outside of the Family Matters brand, I always feel like something's missing, and unfortunately I'm all too aware of what it is. I completely understand capitalizing on the Urkel character and spinning him off into his own independent outings. I've already mentioned before that the Family Matters show in general eventually became the Steve Urkel show. With the character consuming the brand itself, it makes sense. But to do this late in the game is kind of confusing to me. I get that he's a pop culture icon, but he hasn't been treated as such in decades. This random resurrection of the character minus the show that he was a part of feels a little bit off to me. This kind of feels like the type of thing Hanna-Barbera would do back in the day. You know, take an already established property, turn it into a cartoon, and change just about everything aside from the titular character. Although, even that wasn't a guarantee some of the time. The movie's an animated musical that showcases Steve's love for the holidays. And unfortunately for me, it's one of those really repetitive movies where every song sounds the same and gets the same point across. You didn't have to sing 6 different tunes about how important the holidays are. I got it after the first one. I got it after the first couple seconds of the first one. What the movie's really trying to hammer you over the head with is that Steve loves the holidays and people hate him for it. He does good deeds, but they always fall on blind eyes and deaf ears. His new neighbors can't stand his admittedly happy high energy, though many of them are more than happy to accompany him in song and dance. Even those who do appreciate Steve's upbeat nature and helpful attitude very quickly sour on him, and get more than a little annoyed at his presence. Like, take for example when he meets Robin, the holiday mall elf. Somehow he manages to win this stranger over, and then immediately frustrate her directly after. Shortly into the runtime, Steve begins to become disheartened seeing his town half-ass the holidays. And after the world's worst pep talk from Bruce Wayne type, no, seriously, they call him a Bruce Wayne type.
People call him the real-life Bruce Wayne!
In that he has unresolved trauma at the tragic loss of his parents?
No, because he's crazy rich.
Look at that, it's like they knew that I specifically would be watching. Anyway, after getting the world's worst pep talk, Steve takes it upon himself to try and restore Christmas cheer. This billionaire inventor tells him, or actually sings to him, to move fast and break things. Which seems like really bad advice in general, but feels like especially bad advice to give Steve Urkel. That's kind of his whole shtick. He doesn't need to be told to be more destructive. He's got it covered. The solution can't be the same as the problem. So Steve aims to, and I quote, disrupt the holidays. But I kind of think that he would have done that anyway without the input, because this is Steve Urkel, and he disrupts everything. I mean, case in point, Family Matters was once about the Winslow family before he infected the series and made it all about himself. Now he's out here making a mockery of poor Saint Nick, and I gotta be honest, I don't know if Kris Kringle can match up to Urkelmania, even this many years divorced from its popularity. Urkel tries to take over the holiday and spread holiday joy to his community, utilizing his handy technology. But, unsurprisingly, all he does is cause Christmas chaos. His disruption leads to the destruction of everything around him, and he goes viral for all the wrong reasons. But shockingly, that same community that once rolled their eyes at his songs and dances are there to try and comfort him. Which I think is a sweet, sentimental moment that does a good job of showcasing what it's like to be in a community. And this one small segment kind of encapsulates the holiday season, trying to be there for those close to you, even if sometimes you really wish they were much further away. But that moment passes very quickly, because in trying to figure out where he's gone wrong with the billion-dollar advice he was given, he reassesses and decides that he has to disrupt himself from disrupting the holidays. Deciding that he's a risk to everyone else's good time, Urkel abstains from taking part in December celebrations. But he does continue to try to better everything as he goes along, so that feels kind of counterproductive to what he's trying to achieve. He invents a good ticker. His words, not mine. This device calculates when good deeds are actually good, but it's also still counting his intrusion in other people's lives as if it was a positive thing, even though it seems to be set up to remind him not to do those things. He's also worried that Santa won't come unless everything is perfect for the holiday season, and Urkel's wrongdoings might jeopardize that, I guess. That's just added in, and then that becomes like a major factor in the rest of the movie. It kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere, but so did this movie in general and the various plots surrounding it, so it's right at home, I guess. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, even in the story that it's in, because after his inventions become an issue, he resolves it by making more inventions to solve other issues. That doesn't really check out. And I don't think you need to be a super genius like Steve Urkel to figure out why. Of course, these new inventions are just as bad as his old inventions and wind up being more troublesome than helpful. So yet again, Urkel's good deeds go bad. Steve goes to the source and questions Dudley the gazillionaire on why his disruptions failed. And somehow, for some reason, it's decided that it's because the ticker isn't an app that everyone has. So they turn his device into an app, and now suddenly everyone's doing good things for points. Which is weird because they were all annoyed with Steve when he was using this technology, but now everyone just also decides to utilize it. Including Robin, who was very against Steve when he was doing this exact same thing 2 scenes ago. They're all bribed into taking part in this game when $1 million cash prize is presented. The app essentially turns its players into cheer-spreading zombies, willing to say and do anything in the name of points. Urkel, now dismayed at this disaster, decides to run away. And upon flying away from his problems aimlessly, he runs out of gas and lands in the North Pole, where he meets none other than Santa Claus, who is a yeti. And that's not some weird euphemism or something, he's a yeti. So, okay, alright, hold on for a second. There's a couple things to unpack here. Let's start with the fact that in this movie titled Urkel Saves Santa, only now do we actually see the actual Santa. In this hour and 26-minute movie, we finally meet the secondary titular character an hour in with 26 minutes left of a movie. And in introduction, he doesn't seem to be in any danger of any kind at all. Secondly, Santa is a yeti? I just need to accept that Santa is an abominable snowman? You want me to just move past that Santa Claus is a Sasquatch of the snow? Like me, Urkel decides to question this. Because in his words, there's no scientific proof of yetis. And look, I'm willing to agree with him. Except for the fact that there's one standing right in front of you. This Einstein-level genius believes in Santa Claus, but not the singing yeti that is literal yeti right in front of him. I just don't know what's happening in this movie anymore. The plot's all over the place. Okay, so to sum up what has happened in the story thus far, Steve Urkel, Hold the Family Matters, is out to spread Christmas joy, but he fails. So he devises a new way to spread Christmas joy, which is in fact just the same old way done over again, but he fails yet again. So he then makes a device that gets turned into an app that turns everyone into gaming addicts, looking for the fix of a point system in the hopes of making big bucks. And now, Kris Kringle is a Bigfoot. Does any of that add up to you? Because I'm doing the math over here, and it's just not mathing. I know all of that probably sounded really repetitive, but I truly felt that information bared repeating. I just want you to get a full feel of what exactly this movie is bringing to the table. Bullshit. But things get really bizarre, and that's really saying something given the situation, when Santa talks about challenging people on their beliefs of Santa Claus and what Santa should look like.
They want to see the one who's
White.
Okay, so the point they're trying to get across is really strange in these given circumstances. I understand that they're trying to make some sort of allegory here, but doing it in a Christmas special which showcases Santa Claus as a yeti really muddles whatever point of perception that you're trying to make here. This all comes out of left field in a movie where it seems like everything else in it comes out of left field. In a movie, now that I think about it, in of itself comes out of left field. Oh, and Yeti Santa's elves are festive Lord of the Rings elves. Of course. Look, I'm not angry at any of this. I'm just extremely confused by all of it. After Steve learns to accept our Lord and Sasquatch into his heart through song, and he's told that Santa doesn't actually keep track of who's naughty or nice. Through song. It's one number right after the other. I feel like that's kind of going against the Christmas canon, but then again, this Santa is a Yeti. So, you know, all of this feels like a fever dream. This feels like what would happen when one smokes entirely too much Purple Urkel. Santa explains that Christmas isn't about being perfect for prizes. It's about righting your wrongs and making amends with others. Trying to be the best you can be. And apologizing for when you're the worst you that you can be. And truthfully speaking, I think that's a wonderful message to spread. It's just weird that this is the movie that it tried to do that in. The message doesn't get through to Urkel anyway, who instead attempts to work his way into Santa's workshop as opposed to facing his problems. But Yeti Santa is having none of that, and instead insists that this time around, he acts as Urkel's helper. So the two fly off to right all of Urkel's wrongs and save the holidays. On the way there, Urkel has to inform Santa of the songs that are made about him. You mean to tell me old Jingle Bells didn't even know his own jingles? This movie is devastating to everything I've ever known. This new dynamic duo confront Dudley, who I guess is this movie's big bad now? I don't know, I just thought that he was a self-absorbed moron who gave out bad advice. But now, in this scene, suddenly he's evil because we need to stop somebody in the last few minutes of the movie. It's weird that all the blame would be placed on Dudley, and especially that he would be conveyed as being an overall terrible person, because Santa basically just sang to Urkel about accepting accountability. But sure, whatever, we need somebody to be the bad guy here, and it can't be Steve. It can't be Steve. Although, you know what? It really should have been. It really should have been. I think this would have been a much stronger movie if this was just Steve being like, you know what, I screwed up. I'm gonna fix what I screwed up. I'm gonna right my wrongs. I think that's a much stronger story with a much stronger lesson. All I'm saying is that this exact story worked several seasons for Jimmy Neutron. I think it could have worked for one movie with Steve Urkel. Now that I think about it, I'm a little mad that they didn't do that. After making a bunch of hacky jokes on internet culture, Dudley is promptly defeated at a game of chess, anime style. What are even the words that are coming out of my mouth? Afterwards, Steve trips on a chess piece that knocks into a reindeer that hits into a deflate option, knocking the billionaire's airship home out of the sky. Oh god, there we go again. Steve Urkel breaks his neighbors free of the game's control by reminding them that they shouldn't do good things to gain points, they should do it in the name of community. And Urkel reflects that he finally sees that now. But the thing is, Urkel really wasn't doing all this because he wanted to gain points. That added some incentive, sure, but he was originally trying to stop himself from ruining everyone else's holidays. The movie is framing this like it's always been a very selfish act on his part, but it was actually born out of selflessness. This movie sort of loses its plot at some point. And to be honest with you, I'm having a hard time finding it myself. Urkel ends up bringing his community together, reuniting with Robin, and the movie closes the way it began, with the same song. But this time around, with Urkel being joined by all those he irritated, minus me. But again, this is yet another case of this movie contradicting itself. Earlier, Urkel makes a helmet for Robin's father that translates your speech from one language to the next, but Robin rejects the idea because she says that Christmas is about heartfelt gifts from people you love, and that she wanted to earn and spend her earnings on a gift for her father. But at the end, he's shown wearing the helmet anyway, and it's painted as a positive thing. So what was even the point of establishing all that earlier? Santa and Urkel share a hug, and the movie officially ends with Urkel using his latest device, the Decemberizer. With one press of a button, he decorates everything according to the holiday season. However, his inventions have been issues up until this point in time. He has learned that his tech hinders more than it helps. Or at least he should have learned that by this point in time. It's happened 2 or 3 times in the last hour. It just feels like anything he's learned, he immediately unlearned. He's got the IQ of a genius, but the attention span of a goldfish. Somebody needs to step in and give some sort of invention intervention, because this is just getting to be too much. And that was Urkel Saves Santa the movie, a movie in which Urkel did not in fact save Santa. This cartoon is a cute concept. Like, a Steve Urkel holiday movie could be something special. But this just felt like it was too many things, and because of that, it felt like nothing at all. It doesn't feel fully finished or entirely realized. It's all over the place, and it lacks logic even for the type of movie that it is. For whatever it's worth, I think this could have used a little more polishing. It's fine, if not a little bit lacking as is. It's harmless holiday fun, but it doesn't feel like it has all that much substance. It's just another unnecessary cash grab on a long-dead IP. But at times, it does have some heart. And for brief segments, it feels like it has a story to tell. Buried somewhere deep in between Sasquatch Santa and Tony Stark gone rogue. However, what I'm gonna say now might shock a few people, but I still think this is a welcome back to the Urkel character. If Steve Urkel does need to exist in 2023 in some way, shape, or form, this is probably the most fitting. I don't know that anyone's clamoring for a Family Matters reunion or a modern-day reboot at this present point in time, though one or the other does seem absolutely inevitable eventually. This, to me, is an ideal use of the character in modern day. I'd much rather some child-friendly cartoon special that does its own thing with the Urkel character. Nothing connected to the original show that might spoil it, just trying something new with something old. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely could have been better. I don't doubt that there will be more Urkel outings in the future, maybe even sooner than later, but I hope that whatever comes next is more thought out than this. With that being said, if you hated this movie but liked this video, and would be interested in seeing a season-by-season retrospective of Family Matters here on the channel, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
Urkelmania is unstoppable, okay?
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.